Life study of Matthew message 42 continuation. Increase of rejection. The first thing we face on this pathway is rejection. Because Christ is the rejected one, we must be rejected also. We have no choice. Do not expect to be welcomed, for no one will welcome you until the glory comes. Instead, you must be willing to be rejected. In chapter 13, verse 53 to chapter 14, verse 13, we see the increase of rejection. Many of us have experienced some measure of rejection by those who opposed our coming into the church. But I need to tell you that this rejection will not decrease, rather it will increase. There will be rejection upon rejection. Be prepared for this. Rejection by the Galileans, knowing him according to the flesh and blinded by their natural knowledge. The heavenly king was rejected firstly by the Jewish religionists. The religious leaders rejected Christ to the uttermost because they were fully occupied, possessed, and viewed by their religion. Because religion was everything to them, they could not recognize this heavenly king. Blinded by the religious views, they rejected him. After the Lord had been rejected in Jerusalem, the religious center, he turned to a geographical area that was not so religious, Galilee, the place where he was born and raised. Galilee was rather close to Gentile territory. However, he was not even welcomed in Galilee. Although the Galileans did not oppose him, they rejected him because of their natural knowledge. When they saw him and heard him speak, they said, "Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas, and his sisters? Are they not all with us? Where then did this man get all these things?" Here we see that the Galileans knew him according to the flesh, not according to the Spirit, thinking that they knew everything about him. They were blinded by their natural knowledge. They saw the wonders, the miracles he did, but they were preoccupied by their natural concepts. The religious people were preoccupied by their religion and by their religious concepts, and the Galileans were preoccupied by their natural knowledge. If we would know Christ and follow him, we need to realize that religion and natural knowledge are both views. Some of our opposers belittle us by saying that we do not have theological training. But the Lord Jesus, a carpenter's son, had no theological training himself. Brother Nee, the one who helped me so much more than anyone else, had no theological training either. Religion and natural knowledge are two great obstacles frustrating people from recognizing who Christ is. If you follow religion, you will remain in Jerusalem, and if you follow your natural knowledge, you will be in Galilee. But Christ neither stays in Jerusalem nor remains in Galilee. As we shall see, he departs to the desert, because Jerusalem was filled with religious concepts and Galilee was filled with natural knowledge. The Lord went to the desert. Are you in Jerusalem or Galilee? Or are you in the desert? In the desert, there is no religion, culture, or theological training. In Jerusalem, there is religion, and in Galilee there is natural knowledge. But in the desert there is the presence of Christ. Oh, in the desert we have Christ. This is our boast and enjoyment. We do not have religion or knowledge. We have Christ. Because we belittle knowledge, we have been condemned and accused of being natural mind-benders. But our minds are not being bent. They are being renewed from natural and religious knowledge. We must be bold to declare that we are no longer religious or natural. Instead, natural and religious knowledge, we have Christ as our wisdom, a wisdom that surpasses knowledge. Any attempt to know Christ by natural knowledge will result in rejection. According to natural knowledge, Christ was the son of a carpenter, and his mother was an ordinary woman. His countrymen knew all of his outward features, but they did not see that God was in him. In 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 16, Paul says that, along with others, he knew Christ according to the flesh. When Paul was Saul of Tarsus, he knew Christ according to the flesh. He thought that Jesus was merely a little Nazarene. He did not realize that within Jesus was God. But one day on the road to Damascus, the Lord Jesus said to him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? When Saul asked the Lord who he was, he responded, I am Jesus. On the road to Damascus, Saul realized that Jesus of Nazareth was now in the heavens. Jesus seemed to be saying, I was not only the flesh, I was God, for the very God was in me. Saul, you knew me according to the flesh, not according to the spirit within. It's the same today. We need to know other Christians, not according to outward things, not according to their country, language, parentage, education, or outward appearance or qualification. If we know Christians according to these things, we know them according to the flesh, but we should know Christians according to the Spirit, because Christ is in them. Several months ago, one of the apostles was invited to my home for lunch. We went more than 3 hours together. At one point, he said, You don't have scholars among you, do you? We have more than 100 scholars with us. However, eventually we, who are not supposed to have scholars among us, printed articles in the newspapers that the apostles are not able to answer. They have been troubled by so many carpenters' sons. As we follow the Lord in His recovery, we should not know people according to the flesh or estimate them according to the flesh. We should know them according to one thing, according to the measure of Christ. Knowledge, intelligence, and outward appearance means nothing. Perhaps a certain brother cannot speak well and uses poor grammar. Yet, whenever he opens his mouth, Christ comes out. Even when you are sitting in his presence, you realize that some amount of Christ is with him. In the church life, in the Lord's recovery, we do not care for the outward appearance. We care only for the spirit within, where Christ is. This is the way to know Christ, the way to know other Christians, and the way to follow the Lord, causing the heavenly King not to do many works of power among them. Verse 58 says, And he did not do many works of power there because of their unbelief. The rejection of the Pharisees caused the heavenly King to forsake them. The unbelief of the Galileans caused the Lord not to do many works of power among them. Because of the Galileans' natural knowledge, the Lord Christ could not do anything with them. The Galileans did not say, Jesus, we don't want you, get away from here. They simply asked, Is this not the carpenter's son? Where did this man get this wisdom and these works of power? These questions were sufficient. The heavenly King could no longer remain there, and his gracious works of power could no longer be enjoyed by them. Therefore he departed from them to the desert, where there was no culture, no religion, and as we shall now see, no politics. Rejection by the heathen tetrarch. In chapter 14, verse 1 to 13, we see the rejection by the heathen tetrarch. Politics is always alongside religion and culture. According to Matthew's presentation, after the rejection by religion and natural knowledge, there is the rejection by politics. Herod the tetrarch represents the rejection by politics. This is the basic principles of chapter 14, verse 1 to 13. Herod had John the Baptist beheaded in prison. In chapter 12, verse 24, the Jewish religious leaders, representing the entire nation of the Jews, rejected the heavenly King to the uttermost. This forced him to forsake his natural relationships with them. Then in chapter 13, verse 53 to 58, he was also rejected by the Galileans. Now in chapter 14, Matthew, in his doctrinal arrangement, unveils to us how Gentile politics treated the king's forerunner. Gentile politics were evil and full of corruption and darkness. Up to this point, Matthew has given a full picture of how the Jews, Galileans, and Gentiles rejected the ministry of the kingdom of the heavens. Hidden politics coinciding with Jewish religion. Firstly, the rejection by religion reached its climax. Following this came the rejection due to natural knowledge. The rejection by politics coincided with the rejection by religion and natural knowledge. The religionists, those with natural knowledge, and the politicians did not hold a conference for the purpose of rejecting the Lord Jesus. Nevertheless, their rejection of him coincided. Religion, natural knowledge, and politics all came together in the rejection of Christ. The darkness of politics exposed. In chapter 14, we see the darkness, rottenness, and injustice in politics. Our eyes need to be open to see that in religion there is no welcome to our Heavenly King. Neither is there a place for him in natural knowledge, nor in today's rotten, dark politics. In this generation, there is no place for the Heavenly King. Religion, culture, and politics are all one in rejecting the Heavenly King. How I thank the Lord for the record in the Gospel of Matthew. If you read the chapters prior to 14, you will see the deceitfulness in the Jewish religion. You will also see that natural knowledge has caused great damage to people. Furthermore, you will see the rottenness and darkness in Roman politics, which was the leading political system on earth at the time. But even in the best political system, there is nothing but rottenness and darkness.